Budget Office orders a freeze on all federal financial assistance. The decision requires federal agencies to suspend all payments with the exception of Social Security and Medicare. The order, however, was temporarily blocked by a federal judge in Washington, D.C. just about 2 hours ago. And joining us now to talk more about what this means for all of us is Neama Rahmani with West Coast Trial Lawyers. Thank you. You're a former federal prosecutor as well. We appreciate your assistance on this one this afternoon. So people are trying to interpret exactly what the White House meant by sending out that memo yesterday. And the fact is, it's still unclear today. We don't know exactly what their meaning is here, do we?
Very unclear, Dana, because the memorandum itself is very broad. It seems to cover everything, at least on its face, except for Social Security and Medicare. So we're talking about things like Head Start, FEMA, homeless programs, everything. And of course, the White House press secretary and the Office of Management of Budget tried to pull that back today and said this is narrowly tailored to affect the president's agenda regarding DEI programs, transgender programs, to curb inflation. But at least on paper, certainly seems a lot broader than that.
Okay, so I was reading in the Washington Post just a short time ago that it would bring a rapid halt to scores of federal functions. I'm reading exactly what I read. From assistance to homeless shelters, which would impact shelters here in Las Vegas, to financial aid for college students who are watching right now, and health grants distributed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and state aid for disaster reconstruction might face delays. And we could also see an end of funding for Head Start. So do you agree with what the Post is saying here? Is that possible?
It's certainly very possible if you look at the plain language of the memo. That's why you have state attorney generals and blue states that are challenging the order. You have different programs that were supposed to receive benefits, nonprofits and the like, that are litigating because this appears to be a presidential impoundment. So once Congress lawfully appropriates funds, the president normally has to spend that money absent some very specific criteria. The president can go back to Congress and try to rescind it, but it doesn't appear that that has been done in this case.
Okay, let's put a finer point on what you were just making there. Chuck Schumer, who's the minority leader in the U.S. Senate, said today that this funding was passed by Congress, who has the purse strings on the federal budget. He says these programs are not optional. They're the law. Is Chuck Schumer right?
I do believe Chuck Schumer is right as the law is currently understood. Congress has the power of the purse. This is a separation of powers issue. Once Congress passes a bill, it's signed by the president. He cannot unilaterally choose not to spend the money. This was the law on the books before the Impoundment Act of '74, which was passed during Nixon's time because he tried to do this. The Supreme Court said that the president trying to do this is unlawful. And in fact, the president has before tried to get a line item veto of congressional budgets. And the courts have said that is unconstitutional because the power rests in Congress, not the executive branch.
We have a long way to go. I mean, this thing's being fought in federal court as we speak. Temporary halt to this until Monday at the earliest. So we'll find out a lot more in the coming weeks as this thing plays its way through the federal court system. Neama Rahmani with West Coast Trial Lawyers. We really appreciate your insight on this Tuesday afternoon.
Of course. Thanks for having me as always.